I had to also include my favourites, which is Melbourne Magnet, who again, really good disease resistance. Fluffy quill double flowers, and then opening to show this really good big yellow centre, and it just looks magnificent. So this is Dazzler, who looks like he should be tiny, but he actually grows to, again, sort of 90 centimetres, just under. But it's a fabulous head of flowers, so that's just picked off the one stem, obviously. It's so pleasing, because once you've got a big club going, you just get an absolute sheet of these flowers. Shall we have a look at some of the supporting?
Yes.
Are we happy to have a look at some of the supporting casts?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
They've been tempting us.
Yeah. I think, Alan, that you grow this already, if I remember correctly. I may be wrong here.
Yes.
But Polygonum scoparium?
Yes.
Yeah. It is a fabulous plant. Well, in my opinion, anyway. I love it. So it looks a little bit like, I don't know, equisetum or something, I suppose. But it's these great long wandy stems, and then tiny, tiny, minuscule white flowers. But a lovely strong scent off this as well, if you get it on a warmer day. But it's, again, a real sort of honey scent, isn't it, that comes through?
Very nice.
And a real toughie.
Yeah.
Reasonable drainage. It goes quite woody at the base. So you do have to watch it as it gets older. It's worth taking cuttings and starting some young stuff, just in case we get a really hard winter, because sometimes the woody base can crack open, and then that's kind of the end of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it must waft, because it looks like they're very long. You're kind of, they were being held sort of horizontally, but they look like they would.
Yeah, it flows over. So it almost looks like it's flowing. I mean, it spills out. Yeah. We didn't do any grass. Oh, there's a grass. Do you want a grass? Oh.
Oh.
Try that.
Got to run away with Rudbeckia.
Do you want to try that? So it's.
Exciting.
I mean, I hate to say this because it's mean to say it to any plant. This isn't rare or unusual or anything, but I also would not be without it. So it's Rudbeckia fulgida Vardemii, which I think I prefer out of them. That's risky. There we go. I like the shade of yellow better than Goldstone, but that's just a personal opinion. And for us, it does really well, whereas we find with Goldstone, it's maybe not so happy in some of the bits in the garden, isn't it? Whereas Demii just gets on and flowers and flowers and flowers. And again, I mean, you're really July right the way through to end of October. And it looks good with a lot of the daisies. I like bringing that yellow through. So it's, it's a good plant, isn't it?
Yeah, and when it does start to go over, still even you get a group of these stems like that at this time of year, and it's evocative of the time of year. It really is.
Yeah.
You know, it looks and feels like autumn. I like this plant a lot.
And they're also like little kind of, I don't know, teddy bear noses or something. They're just, they're such cute little buttons. I was so glad you brought this along. This has been behind you in this bucket going like, woohoo, I'm having a party, look at me.
Me next.
Ours has been quite late. I mean, it's a late flowering red hot poker anyway, but it has been very late, hasn't it? This is the first of them out. Luckily, we've got a big clump, otherwise I would have been like, oh, I can't cut it. How do I take it in? But it's magnificent. So it's Kniphofia rooperi. So instead of getting that really long, typical poker flower that you expect, it's a much more globular shape. Fabulous when you get the low light levels coming through as well, isn't it? It really looks like it's burning. But yeah, it's a favourite. And I know they can be a bit messy. It's always my complaint about Kniphophias is that the foliage is a bit messy for a lot of the year, and then you eventually get a magnificent flower, and then it goes over and looks a bit messy again, and you're like, wow, I'm not sure it was worth it. But rooperi, I think, because it comes so late, I think it's definitely worth it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're lucky enough, I suppose I always want to grow lots of Kniphophias in my tiny garden. It's not maybe on the new allotment. Take over a big lump of the quarter plot, but yeah, if you had the space, I mean, sort of being able to tuck them in, because they are just worth their weight, aren't they? When they come along, and
Yeah, and they give you a different accent in the garden as well. So you're getting your verticals in, which is quite important. So it's nice.
Talking of verticals.
Yeah, I didn't go and pick too many grasses, but of course with the asters, the grasses work brilliantly as well. This is one of my favourites, although you complain bitterly about it.
Wrong place, that's all. It's a nice plant, just in the wrong place.
So it's Miscanthus transmorrisonensis, and it's a bit of a beast. So this is, well, it's on the floor. So what are we going to be?
It stands about 8 foot.
Yeah, it stands about 8 foot. I did not cut the whole length of it because it was too big. It is very magnificent and semi-evergreen, so it holds a good lot of colour through the winter. I really enjoy it, but you don't like where it is, so
we found a visitor in there. They got lost in it. That was a visitor from last year.
So where is it, and where would you like it to be, Ross?
It's right next to the path, adjoining of 3 paths. So it's just in your face, you know. You can see, I guess, yeah, it's too close to the edge of the path, that's all. And it's if it was further back in the border, then that front space it's taken up would allow me to plant more plants for the space it takes up. Whereas if it was more in the middle, then obviously you could plant right up to it with taller things. You have to come and see where it is. And decide for yourself.
Really?
Yeah, only hope. I
think I might need a digger to dig it out.
So this was something else that we didn't go crazy on picking lots of them, but the dahlias, I mean, they're fabulous in the garden. And this one was meant to be short and forgot. So it's currently standing about 5 foot.
That's huge. Yeah, 5, 6 foot even nearly.
That wasn't where it was meant to be, but never mind. It's Wild Swan Island, so it's one of the ones raised by the Pooh family. So
that's not Winnie.
No, it's Pooh Wild Swan Island, but I think it's fabulous. It's so bright and a bit on the garish side, maybe.
Yeah.
I think dahlias can get away with it.
If you're going to grow a dahlia, you grow the brightest, gaudiest, most revolting colours possible.
Yes. No, I concur. Like, I suppose that there's a place for lots of, you know, sophisticated natural ones that blend into the border, but I think, yeah.
So rude.
Go gaudy. I love it.
Heleniums are kind of had their best, but there's still the odd flower popping up. And they've been a great supporting cast for the daisies.
Yeah, so this is one that we love to use in the garden. It's Sahin's early flowerer. And because it starts obviously in July, goes through, has a bit of a break, and then usually reflowers again. So you get a lot of value for money out of it, don't you?
Yeah.
And probably, 3 foot?
Yeah, a wee bit more in the right place. And it's always worth deadheading it as well. As that first flush, and then give it a quick deadhead. Doesn't take too long, and then you get that next flush, and it just keeps on going. It's such a super thing.
And that colour, along with a lot of those purpley, lilac-y daisies, just going to be so beautiful.
Yeah, it lifts it all. Yeah, probably our last daisy this morning.
Oh, I love that.
Oh, yeah.
Good old Henry.
Yes, yeah. Isn't it fabulous, though?
Yeah.
And again, it's really nice because you can see through it, so you can use it, although it's quite tall, you can use it further towards the front of the border. And
tall and airy.
Yeah.
For people who don't know, full name.
Subtomentosa.
Rudbeckia, Subtomentosa Henry Eilers. And I think it's
Is there a short cousin to that?
Yeah, little Henry.
Why would you bother?
It's quite nice, actually. I quite like little Henry, but you might as well grow the big one.
I do love a strong opinion about plants, though. I think, if you know, you know.
This starts taking us into the woodland garden. So obviously our garden is a game of 2 halves almost, with a large open area with the daisies and all the herbaceous, which is nice and sunny. And then we move into a lovely woodland garden, which Helen's father planted up back in the 1980s, which we benefit from greatly because it's nice and mature now, and we've been spending our time underplanting it. But this sort of takes us there. This is
an opinion divider.
Yeah. Persicaria painter's palette.
Oh.
And we create 2 large drifts of this on either side of the path, and it's just a lovely foil for other things.
He uses the term we. Ross created 2 large drifts of this.
I like it's a royal we when Helen needs something doing, but then when I actually do something, it's just me.
So Helen, are you not quite in the Persicaria fan club?
Actually, I quite like it, so I have to give way on this. But again, it's a plant that is bright and cheerful, and it looks good for a long time. So I can't not like it. But that's my trouble with plants. I can't not like them. So,
does it go some interesting autumn colours as well, that Persicaria, or?
No, it kind of just
goes brown.
Yeah. It's like brown.
But it looks good for a long time. It looks good as soon as it starts coming up. It starts to look lovely. Lush.
Do you have a solid aster?
Not quite. It's a daisy though.
Solidago caesii. So the blue stem Solidago.
I don't know if you can see
colour
on the stem.
That. It's a red stem with like a bluey blush to it.
Gorgeous.
Looks bluer when it's drier, but anyway, it is a really nice plant.
People who are sniffy about golden rods would not be sniffy about that.
No. And it's only
and it kind of
2.5 to 3 feet, so 6.
Yeah,
70
like
to 80, I suppose, in centimeters.
Yeah, subtle.
Lovely.
Nice plant. We were meant to be moving on to more shrubby stuff, and that got slightly waylaid.
So as we move into the woodland area, anybody you got any ideas what this could be?
It's oh yes, I do know what it is. I've got it.
I don't.
It's quite large. It stands about 10 foot in the garden, 10 foot tall, 10 foot across.
It's just superb late in the year. I mean, it just looks so fantastic.
Yeah.
Like great puffs of sort of violet smoke.
Yeah.
What is it?
Aralia californica. So it's a herbaceous Aralia. That's obviously the fruit now. You have creamy greeny flowers earlier in the season, a lot like ivy, and it's loved by all the little tiny wasps and flies and things like that. It's good, isn't it?
Yeah.
And even those little fruits do look like an ivy fruit, you know.
Yeah, Ross, you're just going to say all that growth in 1 year. It's a good plant. If people can't accommodate a shrub that's 10 feet tall, I mean, you can cut it back.
Yeah.
You can prune it regularly.
Keep it contained. But, I mean, you just got to let it run free. It's just awesome.
I first encountered that as the one of the variegated version, either silver or gold. And both the silver and gold variegated versions are grafted onto the ordinary green Aralia. And sometimes, if you're unaware of the fact, you'll get the growth coming from the bottom, which is the green one, and it will be much stronger. And that happened to me, and it had overtaken the variegated one before I realized it. And then at the end of the year, there was this wonderful surprise of these lovely pink seed heads. I haven't, forget the variegated thing. Just give me the green one with the big puffs of purple smoke. I love it.
Yeah. So you're talking about the woody version, aren't you?
Yes.
Sure. Yeah. This is a herbaceous perennial.
I know the one you mean. Yeah.
So this is this will all give it another sort of 2 or 3 weeks, maybe even tonight after the frost. This will all start collapsing and it'll disappear completely down to the ground. It'll be gone, and then it'll start coming back again in the spring.
Amazing.
That's a heck of a size, actually, isn't it? Up to 10 feet.
It's an amazing rate of growth for a hardy herbaceous perennial. Yeah. It just blows my mind.
Yeah. If you sound watched it, you probably see it grow. Enter from stage left, a leaf as big as the screen.
Oh, leave me alone.
That is spectacular.
It's just a small part of this. This is a Polonia Kawakamiai. Should have put a hole in it.
So it's Ross pollards it every year down to what, about
2 foot?
Yeah, so about 60 centimeters, and then we get
15 foot of growth.
Yeah, with these humongous leaves. It is magnificent, but
I think that might be the biggest leaf that's ever appeared on Talking Dirty.
Oh, you've set a challenge now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like Jimmy Blake needs to come on with something even bigger. But that really can fill the screen. It's wonderful, isn't it?
It's a good statement in the garden, and it's quite a juxtaposition to everything else, isn't it? It's a real statement, and it stands out against everything else.
So it's in with a lot of the New England asters that I didn't talk about any of those, but anyway, they're very tall and magnificent, but up against that, they sort of end up looking quite delicate, which is sort of nice. I like yeah.
And so, did you say a Polonia? So it's a relative of the foxglove tree?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this one is not tomentosa, which is the foxglove tree, but it's the sapphire dragon tree, Kawakamiai. But they're very similar. This one's meant to pollard better, but well, it does.
Does it
pollard
well?
Very well. So we haven't got the other one to compare, so I don't know.
Wow, that's lovely. And a first never mentioned on Talking Dirty. So
woo!
There we go. Like a lot of what you've brought, to be honest.
We're going to look at your little gems before.
Little pot.
I'm conscious we're probably running out of time.
No.
Chicken edit.
There we go, Thordis. That's another job.
Edit out this for a start. This I got to show. Good old Alyssum. It's got a fancy new name. What's it called now?
I can't remember.
Alyssum. Sweet Alyssum for the garden, an annual. You grow.
It's got an ugly new name, Ross. Let's continue with the Alyssum, because I know what you mean.
It's so old-fashioned. It's so 1970s, but
yeah. It always reminds me of the seaside towns, because you used to see it everywhere in seaside towns, and that scent immediately transports me back to the seaside.
Yeah. Usually Alyssum begonia.
Yeah.
I pop this all around. I stick it in little gaps, even plant it in the corner of the path, and it does its thing in early summer. Hates the height of summer when it's too hot, and it sort of fades away. But then it comes back at this time of year, and we've got all these pops of white all over the place. It comes back lovely, fresh and lush, and just looks fabulous. It's so, I don't think anybody even notices it, but
it's there.
There, aye.
And it's like a good supporting plant, isn't it? Because it supports the rest of the garden. I've got the variegated leaf version of that, which has a thin gold line around the edge of the leaves. And I grow it in a pot, and it just completely overwhelms the pot. And it's absolutely fabulous.
Yeah. And it sometimes recently it's been overwintering in some spots as well.
Yeah.
Coming back and a bit of seeding around as well. I love it. And I've really warmed to it. The way it comes back and for a second performance after the mid height of summer. So no, it's really nice. Another wee annual that does its own thing around the garden. Quite subtle here, but when you see a big bush of it,
I love this.
Cuphea ignea.
Yeah.
And that seeds itself around when it finds a nice spot, but it's a tender perennial. You can overwinter it in the greenhouse, but easy to grow from seed every year.
So easy.
It's quite late. It takes a wee while to get going and do its thing. You're into the second half of summer before it does get going, but it's a great thing to fill a gap where other things are going over.
Yeah, I love Cupheas. Tubular flowers, I can't get enough of them, and they're so they're so colourful and fun.
We had a couple of years ago now, we had a whole mass planting of them up on a little raised bed, and people kept coming back and going, "Oh, it's so amazing, you've got little mice." And the little mice were sitting there and eating the gone over tubes of the flowers, and just loads and loads of little baby mice sitting there eating them. And I was like, "Oh, that's really cute." Not where are the crocus bulbs?
We must mention a salvia for this time of year. This is Joan. I think it's an involucrata hybrid.
Yeah.
Involucrata hybrid. So if you know involucrata, Bethelii and things, they're quite big statuesque plants. This is much shorter, only sort of 3 to 4 feet, with these lovely long panicles of flowers. Nice bright pink. We like bright pink.
Yes. That's be a nice shade of lipstick.
Yeah.
I'm just looking out the window here, and I'm looking at my Salvia involucrata, and I mean, it's got to be 6 or 7 feet tall. Yeah. It really is big.
Yeah, this is a smaller, subtler version of it.
Yeah.
And then a hardy begonia that does its own thing up in the garden as well. Begonia grandis, and it's quite late before it starts doing its thing, but it's got these lovely undersides of the leaves as well, and the red flushing in the axils of the stems as well.
Do you save the little pips that you get in the leaf axils for
I'm
propagation?
always too late. I've been up looking for them just this week, and they've all gone already. So yeah, it produces little bulbils, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
And here all the way up the stem, and they drop down, and then they produce new plants. So you can dig those out
the harvest
and pot them up later on. But it's a lovely thing.
There's also the pink version of that as well, isn't there?
Yeah. It does well in a wet spot, does well in a dry spot, does well in a shady spot too. It just nothing seems to.
You mentioned it does well in a wet spot. I know of a lady in Norfolk who grows that, and it's almost completely underwater in the winter. She lives next to a water meadow, and she has a pond outside her house, and she actually has a deck that goes out from her house over the pond, which is rather lovely and quite striking. But the drainage ditch from the pond is always, she grows that on the banks of the drainage ditch, and it's mostly underwater for the whole winter.
Wow.
You wouldn't think it, would you? That
No.
would survive.
I love that plant. Leaves, flowers, it's got it all.
Yeah, it does. It ticks a lot of boxes.
Yeah. So what we got now is some foliage.
Aye.
Oh.
So we know what's coming when we see foliage. Like this. Nice silver one there. That's a particular one. The fairy rings, is it?
Yeah,
that is really beautiful.
These are all the hedropholium that are popping up all through the woodland garden.
Are you building quite a cyclamen collection alongside all your other collections?
Most of them are there anyway. We're lucky to inherit some.
Yeah, we've moved them around the garden where they weren't in the right place, but it's been, they're such brilliant plants.
It's a good range of pinks and a lot of whites and the odd dark ones start to pop up now as well.
Look at that dark one. Which one's that?
Nice.
That's amazing. Cyclamen heredifolium and Cyclamen coum, which is spring flowering, I think both those plants, they are the plants that every good garden needs, because they're the kind of thing that's a little bit backgroundy in a way, but I mean, they give such a season of interest, especially with the foliage and some of those. I mean, you mentioned silver leaf there, the one with the big plain silver leaf.
Yeah.
Particularly striking. I've been sort of weeding those out. Well, not weeding them out, but I've been picking them out.
Collecting them.
To keep them together. And just to make a statement with them. And I think they're just so lovely. Most of my silver leaf ones have white flowers too, which is nice.
That is nice, because we started with silver leaf with white, but then there's quite a lot of pink that's obviously seeded through it as well. So I probably need to get out and start lifting some of the corms with the pink. And
we're getting out of the sort of summer big displays back into looking for the detail in the garden, looking for those nice little things that are coming up and doing their thing.
What was the dark flowered one?
Well, I suspect that's just a seedling, but we did have red sky. Was it red sky?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think red skies is in its genetic background there somewhere.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
How's the colour coming through on that?
Yeah.
It's a colchicum. It's the last of them. The weather's kind of getting the better of them now. But when you've got a few different ones, even 2 or 3 different ones, they come up at different times, so you can get a nice succession of them. Mm-hmm. This is speciosum rooperi. Atrorubens, that's it. That's why I keep Helen around. She's got a memory.
The only reason, obviously.
These just come up on their own and stand up. When the weather's great, they do so well. And a good range of shapes, good range of sort of pinks, pale pinks to this lovely, nice dark, sort of almost dark purple.
And the Atrorubens actually has been flowering for a long time now.
Aye, yeah. It's got that lovely long colour all the way down the stem. Some are quite pale, and then into whites and things like water lily, which I've got the alboplenum.
Yeah.
As the parent, which is multi-petaled.
Do you grow them through anything to help keep them upright? I don't have. It's terrible to say. We've got literally the national collection holder of colchicums on one member of this podcast, and then I haven't got any. But I don't put them anywhere. I'm not sure I've got the right spot, but also I just know they'll fall over. They'll just topple.
I don't think you worry if they fall over too much, because it's part of the nature of the plant.
Yeah.
But I mean, when you say national collection, we have got the national collection here. Me, as a gardener, I think they're not very nice. as a national collection, because they're all grown in water lily baskets and they're all in a regimented bed, and it's a bit like a stamp collection. You're either into it or you're not, but take them out of that environment and put them in the garden and grow them amongst other things. You need to perhaps be aware, perhaps with colchicums, that they have 2 seasons really. They have the wonderful autumn season of growth, and then they have that quite early spring with this wonderful great sheafs of shiny leaves, and then they die off in May and they go yellow and people hate them, and they're messy things. They take up too much room, they're this and that. But if you site them carefully, you can grow other things through them, and so you can. It's a bit like the magician's assistant. She's there to detract from what he's doing. So you need something in the garden to detract from your cultural foliage.
Yeah. And we've got quite a few different kinds. Labels missing, labels vacant, label monster been around and eaten the labels. But I've tried them in different places as well. So we've got them in damp places, dry places, shady places, sunny places, and it doesn't seem to worry them at all. They just seem to be happy wherever I pop them. And they do come up, and the weather has to be kind to help hold them up. But as soon as one falls over, another one comes up behind it. They have a lot of flowers within them, and they're just lovely pops of strong colour at the time of year when it's. And
it's worked really well. Have you got pass that one over? The fern on the end.
This one.
So this year we've had the Atrorubans. I don't think it's probably quite this. No, it's not.
No, Serralium.
But it's been up against one of the polypodiums. My arms aren't long enough. And it looks fabulous. So again, fresh green foliage with the lovely colchicum flower. It's a really good combination. Admittedly, this rather fine polypodium isn't the exact one that we use in the garden. This is Serralium, but it's a fabulous plant. And of course, they're looking lovely and fresh just as the colchicums are coming into flower. And then it also helps with the colchicum foliage, I think, because you've then got this lovely block of greens working together in different textures. So
now I know where I'm going to put some.
There we go. Tick, solved a problem.
Yeah, you won me over with that combination of fern foliage and colchicum. That did it.
Talking of polypodiums.
Because we are now.
This polypodium called Jubilee. It's quite a nice texture on the frond. A lovely indentation.
Yeah.
Or the opposite of indentation. I don't think it was named for the Jubilee, but it's
That's old, isn't it?
Yeah, the polypodiums have great history. They go back. Victorians were very keen on them, but they go further back than the Victorians for being discovered and being growing, and they're so variable. There's a lovely selection of different kinds.
Might just become a fern now.
You see how variable they are. This is these are Cambricum, Jubilee, Polypodium, Serralium, and this one
hybrid.
Yeah, it's a hybrid, and this one in the middle is I'm guessing a Cambricum as well, Polypodium Cambricum hornet, and it's got a very small frond on it that makes up this group, and they grow from rhizomes. So these little rhizomes creep along just on the surface, just underneath the surface of the soil. They're quite keen on a drier aspect, so they're good in dry shade, and they start to create these lovely big clumps. And hornet in particular has its name for a little bit on the frond that sticks out just like a hornet's.
Yeah, you can see quite well on
the sting of a hornet.
Yeah.
If you can spot that.
Got an actual spike on the end of the frond.
Yeah.
They're very, very quirky and fun to grow. Easy to grow as well, really easy.
I love ferns.
Quite nice. Yeah.
I think they're wonderful.
The podiums are just coming into their own now, and they'll carry on right through the winter, right into spring. And great foil, as we saw for the colchicums, but also crocuses and snowdrops.
Floating heads.
Yeah. we may have covered these in our talk in wintertime. I can't remember.
I think we probably did look.
I think some ferns always sneak in because they're fabulous. And I can't remember at what point we talked in relation to me buying snowdrops, but I definitely, I was very lucky. Alan gifted me quite a lot of little ferns, which I've sort of snuck amidst my snowdrops, which hopefully have survived this year. I don't think I've got anything as beautiful as that though, Ross. What is that?
That's probably everybody's favourite. That's Richard Kay's.
Ah, yes, I don't have.
We did mention that last time.
We did.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Everybody's favourite.
Yeah.
I love that.
Definitely yours.
Yeah, and Addison too, and Felcartum.
Yeah. So yeah, there's lots to choose from.
Can you put it back? Can you bring it back? It's too pretty to put away that quickly.
Perfect. They're perfect plants for the nerdy collector.
That is a gorgeous one as well. It's on my list. I don't know why I don't have it yet, but clearly I need to get it.
Very, very old. I think it's recorded as, I can't remember when, 1700s possibly. But this was rediscovered by Martin Rickard. So he scaled a cliff face in Wales to find this and recover it and bring it back into cultivation.
Such a great colour. It's got such great texture to its fronds. Everything about it.
Would you like a couple of succulents to finish off?
Yes!
I've no idea what the time is.
I wondered if you were going to sneak any succulents in.
Yeah, we'll sneak them in and then I'll have to go and open the gate.
Yeah, it's nearly time for the garden to open.
Yeah.
So there's lots to choose from, lots of really fancy, rare and unusual ones, but I chose a Graptivaria, Fred Ives. I mean, it's been around for a long time. It just seems to grow on its own. You knock bits off and they start to grow on their own. We've got one of these right in front of Richard Kay's Polypodium. There's a combination. Graptivaria growing next to Richard Kay's. Hey, you've never seen a combination like that before. And this has survived for about 3 years in the garden. I guess it's been mild enough and sheltered enough. It looks terrible in spring, but it comes back, and the one in the garden, it's 10 inches, nearly a foot across. It's incredible. So that is a very easy to get hold of and cheap succulent to have in the garden, in a pot, in your house.
We like those. It's all well and good to go and spend like £30 on a succulent, but sometimes an easy, available, cheap
they're
one.
often cheap for a reason, because they like to grow, which is a good reason to get hold of them, isn't it?
Well, the Graptivaria, all you need is a leaf off someone, and you're off.
Yeah, we
However,
love
this is slightly different. This is a small one. This is Echeveria Mauna Loa, and I guess this one's about 10 inches across, but it can get up to almost 15 inches across, so 1.5 feet. Lovely colour, lovely frilling on the edges.
It's out of this world. It's alien-like, and
yeah, all from under the sea. I've never quite decided whether it's
and they make great patio plants. You can get this into a big pot for the summer and put it outside, and it's a statement for sure. Yeah.
You have one of these or at least one of these in your sort of succulent display, Alan, outside your office.
I've got about 5 actually.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just so good, and they contrast so well, not just the shape, but the colour, as Ross was just saying there. The colour on the edge of the leaf and everything is amazing. The only thing is that I'm fine with it. I mean, the flower stems also equally as impressive, but it can be rather top heavy. And can flop a bit, but spectacular thing. And when the flower stem comes up, it has this wonderful sort of bloom on it, like you get on grapes. I mean, it's just
you can't touch it, can you, to market? No. And the last one, last but not least, is another small one. It does get bigger. This is Aeonium. Everybody knows Schwarzkopf, and everybody wants Schwarzkopf, but this is far superior. This one's called Voodoo. It's much fuller. You know, it's a real full rosette, and it's a better stem on it as well. The leaves seem to go down the stem much better than your Schwarzkopf, which gets quite bare and leggy when you leave it. So this is something I would really recommend to get hold of if you're looking for any Aeonium. Very chunky. It's a chunky monkey for sure.
Yeah, you are wonderful at growing succulents. They always look so fabulous. So say an Aeonium, what is your kind of ultimate care regime through the year?
Ooh, they like to be fed and they like to be watered. they stop growing when it gets too hot. So they stop growing through the middle of the summer. So I wouldn't do anything with them then. Give them a wee bit of water. They're almost hibernating. Spring and autumn, feed them and water them, and they'll grow. They'll grow like nobody's business. Keep potting them up. Don't put them in thin soil either. Put them in a nice, rich, multi-purpose compost with a little bit of sharp sand, and they seem to love it.
I think I need to do more potting up. That's probably something I need to do.
I think because they will survive on a lot of neglect, people tend to go down that route, and also assuming that because they don't want to be soggy all the time to do really free draining, but actually if you want to get the size and the plant to really be healthy, it needs a little more TLC than we tend to think.
Helen, that's called laziness.
Yeah. I wasn't going to say that, but
Well, that's fabulous. Showstopper for the end as well, Ross. That was a good final plant.
Well done.
Well, what a tour via various Asters and Symphyotrichums. We've taken in other various daisies and supporting cast members and succulents and ferns and colchicums. Wow. Total celebration of the season. And,
don't forget the cyclamen.
And the cyclamen. How did I forget the cyclamen? Because I'm not writing down notes. Alan's very clever. He's squirreling away all of his notes. His probably extensive Flomo list. Flomo, by the way, for anyone who's never caught one of our podcasts before, it is that fear of missing out you get about a flower or a plant. It's the way I live my life. I think it's the way Alan lives his life, even with 32 acres. So we'll come on to what his Flomo is. Mine, I'm actually quite pleased you didn't end up bringing it along today, but you posted a Symphyotrichum the other day on your Instagram called Flamingo, which was so fun. You described it as a scrummy pink, which I thought nailed the colour, 80 centimetres tall and created by Paul Picton in 1967. So one of yours.
That's one on the list then.
It was absolutely beautiful. And I have a couple of Symphyotrichums or Asters. I haven't checked. I'll go and understand it better now after this podcast, but I probably could squeeze another couple in. And also, I always covet your ferns. You posted a Splenium, Scolopendrium, Crispum, Bolton's Nobile, which is all crinkly, these like crinkly, strappy, green, rich green fronds, which was lovely. And I think your post was something along the lines of you were lucky to grow it. So I'm assuming that's not one that is widely available.
Not widely available, no, but it's out there.
Track it down.
Yeah.
Oh, I've got that on the list. Absolutely beautiful fern. So thank you as ever for giving me lots of Flomo with your Instagram, like on a daily basis. Do you have anything that you're eager to lay your mitts on?
I'm probably back to houseplants. I'm looking for some different rhodias. You know rhodias? They're kind of a bit along the lines of aspidistras, I suppose. They're green and dull, dark green and dull, but they grow well in the flat. And I don't know.
We have a house full of aspidistras now, but never mind.
As it should be.
Well, at least they're, good doers.
They are, yeah, and we do enjoy them. So yeah, I can't complain too much.
Yeah. What about you?
I don't know.
Oh, give it 5 minutes.
Give it 5 minutes, and then you'd have 50.
Yeah, well, that's the trouble. But I have to restrict myself. Be like, no, not allowed.
Well, it is actually a genuine problem when both of you are madly into plants. I think, in our household, the other half's just trying to stop me gaining plants. So at least there's like something to try and halt you. But when you have limited space and you both want all of these things, that must be quite tricky.
We're doing a whole new border, the border along the Walwyn Road. We call it Walwyn Road border. It's getting redone this year, so there's a big list of plants for that. So we have a big Flomo list. I think we're going to try lots of the Bistortas.
Yeah.
What were they? They weren't Bistortas.
Persicaria.
So we've got a few of those we'd like to try, along with the
Heleniums?
No. Oh, Heleniums.
Yeah.
I went to the National Collection in Berwick to see the Heleniums up there in the early August. fantastic garden, really nice garden, and he's got them all laid out in this little wall garden in Berwick, with lots of different herbaceous perennials, lots of grasses, lots of the bistortas, and lots of sanguisorbas as well. Really nicely laid out, a good collection of plants.
So in essence, Ross's Flomo list is huge.
I'd expect nothing less.
So it's exciting to be able to do a new border.
Well, we have to release you to your garden in a second so that members of the public can actually get in. Before we do that, Alan, what's your Flomo this week?
Well, when I came on this podcast, I was hoping that it was going to help me with a new border, which is our red and purple border. Unfortunately, suffered from an infestation of the greater bindweed. And so for the last 2 years, we've been dealing with that. And I think we've just about knocked it on the head. And I kept thinking, what shall I do? What shall I do? What shall I do? I don't want to do the same thing again. And so I have come to the conclusion that I would like to do a blue and yellow border, but I don't want it to be just blue and just yellow. I mean, we've got to have subtle in-between shades and all the rest of it. So we'll go sort of yellows and creamies and mustards and that kind of thing. And Solidago today that you had, I suddenly thought, wow, that's something. I hadn't thought of that. And there was a lovely true blue aster that you showed, which I thought, well, come on, look at this. And so, you've helped me enormously, but I'm really sort of on the lookout for, I want unusual plants. I don't want samey sort of things. I want a few unusual plants, but plants that do well and have a long season. So I don't really want much, do I?
No.
Watch this space. Well, plenty of inspiration today for all of us. It has been just as plant-tastic as I'd anticipated. Thank you so much for traipsing about in the rainy weather and covering yourselves in moisture to show these plants off today. We have enjoyed it enormously. So thank you very much. Until next time, and maybe we'll talk about snowdrops. Until then, happy gardening, everybody.
Happy gardening. Go and open that gate.
We can even see that.
Yeah.
Just pull it off.
Actually, it's coming through very well.
Oh, good.
I think Ross's jacket is helping.
Yeah,
it is.
You're the background. And it's
Ross, have you been flying this morning?
Yeah.
Yep. Parked in the car park. Tiger moth.
Let's talk about your beast.
No, stick with the garden. Deserve that. I went to I'm droning on. Well, I went to the National Collection in Berwick.
It is a bit unruly.
Oh, what are you on now?
Right, okay.
We're getting unrulier and unrulier.
Yeah.
Along with the
Heleniums?
no.
No?
Oh, Heleniums. Yeah.